All right, well, thank you everyone for joining. My name is Veronica Aplenc. I'm co-chair of the Center City Residents Association Zoning Committee. Before we get started, I just want to let everybody know that we have had a slight change of agenda. We are going to hear two properties tonight. 2036 Spruce Street is not able to present this evening. There was a glitch in their refusal. They will be presenting at the next February meeting. So we will begin by hearing 220 South Broad Street, and then we will hear 2216 Naudain Street. And so now I will go ahead and read our introduction and welcome. So welcome to the Center City Residents Association Zoning Committee. The CCRA is a 75-plus-year-old nonprofit civic association. As a nonprofit, we encourage everyone to become a member, which can easily be done through our website. There are several benefits to being a member, one of which is being notified of all proposed zoning changes within our area. CCRA is the recognized registered community organization, RCO, for our area. Our boundaries are from South Street to JFK Boulevard and Broad Street to the Schuylkill River. Our committee works as follows. First, applicants are to present. We ask applicants address the specific refusals or referrals. We ask for no interruptions as applicants give their full presentation. After the presentation, the zoning committee will have a chance to ask questions. After the zoning committee's questions are completed, we open the meeting to the community. When addressed, we ask that you state your name and address. We ask that you keep your questions succinct and to the variance being addressed. We also ask that people not repeat others' questions. If you agree with someone's position, you're welcome to simply state that you agree. If there's a spokesperson for the neighbors, we ask that this person speak for the group first. After we hear from all applicants and listen to the community comments, our committee meets in closed session. We vote in one of three ways: oppose, not oppose, or not oppose with provisos. CCRA never votes in favor of an application. Our decision is emailed to the councilperson, the ZBA, the applicant, and is also posted on the CCRA website. Important, no matter how we decide, if you are concerned about a project, we strongly recommend that you attend the ZBA hearing. This is the best way to make your concerns known. The CCRA Zoning Committee cannot express the neighbor's point of view. Only a property owner or aggrieved individual may express their personal concerns to the ZBA. So with that said, we will now turn to our agenda. And just to, in a reminder, we will hear two properties this evening. 2036 Spruce Street cannot present this evening. They will present in the February meeting. So we will begin with 220 to 224 South Broad Street. And then our second case will be 2216 Naudain Street. So I'm just going to ask everyone to please mute themselves when they enter, and that way we will, there won't be any echo and we'll be able to move forward smoothly. So with that, our first property is 22, that's not true, it's 220 to 24 South Broad Street, and I think Rod Patterson is on the line. So Mr. Patterson, I'm going to invite you to present, and I'm just going to ask, I'm hearing an echo. I'll just read the refusal, then I'll turn it over to you. So 220 to 24 South Broad Street is zoning category CMX5. This is an application for a roof deck accessory to a previously approved personal services fitness center use. Now this is a referral. So just in a reminder, this is a referral, and what this means is that the burden is on the community why not to accept zoning change. And so the referral is, whereas roof decks accessory to non-residential use in the CMX5 zoning commercial zoning district requires special exception approval from the ZBA. So I think, Mr. Patterson, if you're here, I invite you to I invite you to screen share and to present your case, please. And just as we move forward, just an apologies, just a quick note. We are going to hold to the time frame that we have instituted a few months ago. So we're going to ask the presenter, if you could please present your case in 10 minutes. And then we're going to have 10 to 15 minutes for community, first of all, committee and then community questions. So please.
Good evening, Ron Patterson. I'm a zoning attorney with Claire Harrison Law Firm here in Philadelphia. And I'm representing tonight is the entity 220 South Broad Property, LLC, which is a Lubert Adler holding, we'll call it. And with me tonight also is Lenny Claire, who's a principal there at Lubert Adler, Chris Tantilla, or Tantilla, and Andrew Devaris from the Tantilla office. So what you're seeing there, screen sharing, is a picture of the garage on South Broad Street. The entity owning this also owns the Bellevue, and both are under extensive renovations. What we're here to talk about is this top portion of the garage, which was the sporting club, and this is a view across the street. You may know or may not know, but once COVID hit, the garage, the sporting club closed, so it's been for several years, but it has undergone an extensive and substantial renovation. I don't think any square foot it was untouched, and Lenny could describe what you'll see here, but I'm getting to the point. Here's many different aspects of the sporting club. And so on the third level of the sporting club, here's the lobby here. There's a deck. And here's the deck on an aerial view over here. Unused, but part of the renovation, put a new flooring here, and it's actually a pervious floor, meaning that when it rains, it actually drains. And we thought that we utilize this area for the guests at the sporting club for various reasons. As you mentioned, this is a referral, because although roof decks are permitted in the city of Philadelphia, if they're non-residential, they require a special exception approval. And so with that said, Lenny, are you here? You could introduce yourself.
Yeah, Lenny Claire. I'm a vice chairman of Lubert Adler. Our office address is 2400 Market Street, Suite 300, Philadelphia. It's the Aramark building. My home address is 237 South 18th Street in Philadelphia. As Ron described, the outdoor deck area is off of the third floor mezzanine, which is actually the fifth floor of the sporting club. The sporting club is comprised of 5 floors above an 8-story garage. It was originally built in the 1980s by the Rubin organization, and existed as a club. It's over 110,000 square feet, a fitness club for over 30 years. It was closed in March of 2020 when the city put out COVID restrictions prohibiting more than a certain number of people being in the same facility, and did not reopen. We acquired the sporting club as part of our acquisition of the Bellevue, which we're also doing a total renovation of. I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. I don't know if everybody can hear me or not. We completed I guess a year and a half, 2-year renovation in which we spent in excess of $10 million renovating the 110,000 square feet of the sporting club. The sporting club officially opened in November 6th, 2023. So we've been open a little more than 2 months, about 10 weeks. We currently have over 2,500 members at the sporting club that have joined since we've opened. The deck's use, and I think you'll probably know this from your own experience. COVID kind of awakened everybody to the need for fresh air, and so we wanted to be able to get outside for our club members for everything from just relaxation, having a place outside, as well as having certain fitness classes outside, like yoga, etc. So we created the outside deck. The roof already existed. We put down a floor, as Ron talked about, that drains through the roof, and it's kind of a nice outdoor space for our club members. We expect to use it for classes, for members to have relaxation outside, and potentially for events for club members.
Well, thank you very much.
Lenny, the hours of operation, I guess, are commensurate with the operation of the sporting club, and what would they be?
Yeah, the club is opened 7 days a week, Monday through Friday. It opens at 5 a.m. For early risers, and closes at 10 o'clock. On Saturday and Sunday, it opens later. I think it's 7 a.m. and it closes at 8 p.m.
And do you have any residential neighbors on the three sides of the building here? Okay.
No, the building to the south, which in this photo that you're seeing now, is an office building, and the building to the north is the Bellevue itself, and those floors are hotel floors. And the building, there really is no building to the west. There's a street, but it's a commercial, non-residential area.
Great, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
That's a very clear and succinct presentation. Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, unless you have any questions, of course, we're here to answer.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. That's very clear and succinct. So now I'd like to turn to the members of our committee, and I'll just go down the list and ask if anyone has any questions. And I already see a hand. So let me go ahead and just go down this list. Charles, Robin, any questions?
Just two questions, I suppose, Ron. What is the square footage of the outside space?
Chris or Andrew, do you have that data?
You give me an approximate.
Yeah.
That person speaking, he's muted.
Yeah, sorry. I think we're at 450 square feet.
Is it 470 square feet for the outside space?
I think so. Hold on. Andrew, can you confirm that for me? Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, I'm checking on it right now.
That can't be.
Yeah, just give us a second. Sorry. What was your second question?
For Ron, the fact that it's a private club, if you had events outside, you would not need an amusement permit, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, there's no charge for admission to the deck.
Right.
Nor would it
Well,
need
if
a
it wasn't
special
a private
occupancy
club,
test.
if you had something outside.
Yeah.
But all right.
Yeah, good point.
All right. Well,
I'll wait for it. You go on for another question. I'll wait for that square footage.
Yeah, sorry.
all right.
Yeah,
go
sorry
ahead.
about that. Yeah.
All
I think my estimate is off by a factor of 3, but Andrew will get us to the right number here in a second. Sorry.
All right, that's great. Let's move forward through some more questions, and then you can just let us know when you have that information. Rebecca Frisch, any questions? No?
Oh, no, thank you. No
Marie-
questions.
Great. Ben Zuckerman?
This is, I guess, a follow-up to what Charles just asked. Do you plan to have any food or beverage service or music out there?
I could see there being potential food or beverage if we have an event. This picture you're looking at now, the photo rather, that you're looking at now, you can see that the deck surrounds a room which has kind of glass walls on two sides and there are doors on it. So the thought was if that room is used for an event when the weather's decent and you can be outside, that you would have be able to spill over to the outside and have fresh air. So there would be potential food and drink, but no music.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Sylvie Lorente, any questions?
Good evening. Did you have any discussions with the neighbors about this project?
No, we've not had any discussions with the neighbors. I guess, the only real neighbor in the sense of adjacency is the office building to our south. That is on the corner of Broad and Spruce. But no, we've had no discussions with them.
And you control the Bellevue, just to reiterate, correct?
Yeah, and the Bellevue, the building to the south, we own and is connected by air bridges to the sporting club and the garage.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Flora Becker, any questions?
Questions?
Thank you. Bob Lane, any questions?
No questions, thanks.
Thank you. Karen Moskovitz, any questions? Karen Moskovitz? All right, we'll move forward. Ben Weinraub, any questions?
Sorry about that. This is Karen. I want to know, will you have a liquor license for this?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Ben Weinraub, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Steve Rubin, any questions?
No questions, thanks.
Thank you. Evan Litvin, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Doug Miller, any questions?
Yes, what, I'm a little confused. I thought you said it was on the 5th floor, but you have to go to the 8th floor to get to the club, and then it's above that?
So it sounds like the question is, what floor is this on?
Lenny, you look like
Yes.
you're speaking and you're muted. Yep.
Yeah, I got it. It is a little confusing, but yeah, the club starts above the 8th floor of the garage. There's eight garage floors that you can go on an elevator, and the first floor of the club is above that. And then there are 5 floors. There's the lobby floor of the club. There's a second floor, which has a full, the first floor has the locker rooms. It has the entrance desk. It has a small cafe and gathering area. It has sales offices. And then it has the locker rooms and a 25-meter pool in the back, which is very popular. And then the second floor has a large basketball court, a full NBA regulation basketball court, and it has other athletic facilities for classes and workouts. And then the third floor is a huge fitness floor. Ron has shown photos of that. And there are 2 mezzanine floors in between. There's a second floor mezzanine in between the second and third floor, and then there's a mezzanine above the third floor. So all told, there are effectively 5 floors, although the second floor mezzanine and the third floor mezzanine are not full floors in the sense of having a square footage of a full floor. So on the third floor mezzanine, which is the 5th floor of the club, there's a running track which runs around the fitness center. It's 11 laps to a mile. And then it also has this room and restrooms off of it that you saw with the glass walls. And then off of that glass walled room is the roof deck.
So essentially that's on the 12th floor of the building. Is that right?
9, 10, 11, 12, maybe 13.
13th.
Yes,
All right, thank you.
that's correct. And didn't mention, but you can see it in the photos. This is a good example. There's a parapet that runs around that outside deck, as you can see. I would say it's 3.5 to 4 feet tall, maybe 4 feet. I'm about 5'10". I can get my head to lean over and see the Broad Street.
Right, it's a 4 foot, yeah, it's a 4 foot parapet, and the square footage on the deck, just to follow that thread back through, is 3,200 square feet. So I apologize for that first estimate. So 3,200 square feet.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
And now, Andre Geffen, any questions?
Yeah, so how far is that parapet recessed from the facade, or is it recessed at all?
It is the facade. Yeah. The facade, steps, as you can see. There's like a non-accessible, that Ron's pointing out there, roof, and then it steps back, and that's the parapet. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you very much. I think I've called on all of the committee members. Are there any community members who would like to ask any questions? If you do, I invite you to raise your hand using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. I see no community questions, so I invite anyone from the community who wishes to ask questions to unmute yourself and ask your question now. All right, well, seeing none, I don't think we have any community questions. So I want to thank Mr. Ron Patterson and Mr. Lenny Claire and all of your team. Thank you for this clear presentation.
Thank you for hosting. We appreciate it.
All right, and
thank you very much
for that.
Yep.
Thank you.
And so feel free to leave the meeting if you were here for that particular property. And now we're going to move forward to our second property, which we're going to be hearing this in today's meeting, and that is 2216 Naudain Street. Now, 2216 Naudain Street is a referral. And so this is an application for visitor accommodation in an existing structure with other uses in the same structure as previously.
The refusal, right?
This is a refusal, that's correct. And thank you for that clarification. There's a misprint here on the agenda. This is a refusal, and so to confirm, in a refusal, the burden is on the applicant to demonstrate why the community should accept the zoning change. So for this refusal, the reason is that the proposed uses, visitor accommodations, are prohibited in this zoning district. So I believe the presenter is, or the representative is Adam Laver. Apologies for any mispronunciations. Good evening. So I invite you to go ahead and present for us. And again, as with the previous case, we're going to ask if your presentation could be about 10 minutes, and then we're going to hold our questions to 10 to 15 minutes. And I see that there are a number of community members present. Thank you. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Laver, and I am a zoning attorney at Blank Rome. It is my privilege to represent 2221-2225 South Street Associates LP, which is better known in the community by their doing business name, City Living Philly. And with us this evening are Jason Nussbaum and Tom Hallinan. With that, I will attempt to screen share and walk you through a brief presentation. I'd like to thank the members of the committee and also the neighbors who have come out this evening. Here we are. The subject property is 4 condominium units, which comprise 2216 Naudain Street, accessed exclusively off of Naudain Street, as those of you who live on the block and in the immediate vicinity know very well. The subject property, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here on the zoning map. The subject property is in this location, and this is the City of Philadelphia zoning map, which shows CMX2, which is the underlying zoning district. It's important to note that those of you who live across the street are in RSA 5 single family, an RSA 5 single family district. And those of you who are on the eastern half of the south side of Naudain Street are also located in a single family zoning district. There may be instances, of course, of non-conforming uses, meaning that a use is no longer allowed under the zoning code, or perhaps a use had gone before the Philadelphia Zoning Board of Adjustment. Here is the notice of refusal, an example of one of the 4 notices of refusal, which are essentially identical. There is one issue before the zoning board and one issue that we're presenting on this evening. Visitor accommodations is prohibited within the CMX2 zoning district. We are here, it's important to note at the outset, proactively, in that Jason and Tom have recognized that the use, the visitor accommodations use, which actually has existed here for several years, is not properly documented in the L&I zoning records. No fine has been issued, no violation has been issued. They are seeking to do the right thing and come before CCRA and the zoning board, in part due to changes, quite frankly, in visitor accommodations regulations in Philadelphia. So these 4 units, these 4 homes, date back 5+ years to when Jason acquired the first. And in terms of the visitor accommodations use at these 4 condominiums, at these 4 residences, if you will, the first use was established about 4.5 years ago. So I'd just like to be very clear for the record, nothing new is being proposed. This is proposed documentation and confirmation of existing uses. Each of the properties, as you'll see in a moment, comprise 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath residences. And as those of you who live close by know very well, there's off-street parking for each of the 4 properties. And everything is accessed off of Naudain Street and set back quite a bit. Sorry, I didn't mean to make anyone car sick there or motion sick. Here on the screen before you, you can see a typical floor plan for each of these visitor accommodation spaces, showing from right to left basement, first floor, second floor, third floor, with walkout open space as well. Again, each of these properties, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. Here is the shared access. It is set back off of Naudain Street. I'd like to take a moment just again to speak about CMX2 as we're looking at this view. So CMX2 does not allow exclusively residential living. Variance relief would be required for that, to put it in context. CMX2 is intended under the zoning code to promote commercial at the first floor. A child care center, for example, would be permitted by right. A church or a synagogue would be permitted to hold religious assembly. Sales of pets and pet supplies would be permitted. A sit-down restaurant would be permitted. Just again, to put that in context, because I could understand those in the RSA 5 district wanting a little bit more information on that background. Here you can see views into the properties showing courtyard, outside spaces, how these would be accessed. And outfitted on the interior in the style that City Living Philly is known for, really quite top-notch. We're going from A, B, now C, and D. And for those of you who, most of you probably are familiar, but just a sampling of some of the other properties owned by City Living Philly in the neighborhood, the supermarket on South Street, of course, the Goddard School on Pine. And in the center, I'd like to point out the historic renovation at 20th and Spruce, which was reviewed by CCRA not too long ago and is also a boutique visitor accommodations use. And some nice reviews regarding the current operations. With that, I'd like to stop screen sharing for a moment and speak directly to all of you regarding the operations of the visitor accommodations by Jason and Tom and by Rafi, who works with them in management. So some important details. This is a short-term platform intended very much for neighborhood use. And we have examples of those in the neighborhood who have renovated homes and have moved into this living situation with families while they're doing that in their own neighborhoods. Examples of those seeking treatment at hospitals in University City, making use of this private, quiet area to tend to their families. Booking requests are vetted and identities are verified prior to accepting any booking. So for example, a recently created user on a booking platform with no previous bookings is never accepted by City Living Philly. And again, 20th and Spruce is an existing example also of one of their very well-run visitor accommodations. And they're highly rated for this. There are rules in place regarding operations. They do not accept same-day bookings or one-night stays. The average stay at this location has been 5 days. Rules provide for no parties or events, no smoking, quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning, and there is private trash hauling in place. Jason and Tom have spoken with several of you who live in the neighborhood. Many of you are very familiar with City Living Philly. In the density of this neighborhood, there are times when a neighbor has called and said, we see a bag of trash out on Naudain Street, could you look into it? And Tom and Jason have done so, and many times it actually doesn't appear to be from them, but they've taken care of it. As I mentioned, there is the off-street parking for 4 cars. If you look at other CMX2 uses that could come in terms of the intensity of the use, this likely fits in very well with a residential setting. And you also have 2-hour parking, except for those of us who have the on-street permit parking, live in the neighborhood and can stay longer. So those who are there for short periods of time cannot avail themselves of that sort of long-term parking. With that background, I would like to just briefly address CCRA's policy regarding no visitor accommodations. In this particular instance, I would respectfully submit that we are addressing appropriately a relatively long existing use at the site. And you have a unique situation with the layout of the property, which I can bring back in terms of it being off the street and quite difficult to imagine a viable commercial use that could be in this location. We're very grateful for the opportunity to present tonight. We suspect that there may be several questions, and we're all happy to engage with you this evening. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Laver. That's very clear and very comprehensive. What I'll do now is I'll ask the committee whether it has questions, and then I will open it up to the public. So starting with the committee, Charles, Robin, any questions?
Questions, thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Frisch, any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Ben Zuckerman, any questions?
None, thank you.
Thank you. Sylvie Lorente, any questions?
No question, thank you.
Thank you. Flora Becker, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Bob Lane, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Karen Moskovitz, any questions? No questions. Thank you. Ben Weinraub.
No
Thank you.
question, thank you.
Steve Rubin, any questions?
Yeah, just one question. How are how is the space promoted? How do you get renters for these properties? Is it through your own platform? Through another platform? Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, hi, Steve. Good to see you, and thank you for the question. I should have addressed that. There are several platforms that are used by City Living Philly, including VRBO, for example, and the information on the visitor accommodations is put out there. Any requests for stays are vetted by the City Living Philly team to make sure that they meet their security requirements and background checks. And in addition, I should note, this may go beyond your question, but I did not mention that in order to access the actual units, if you will, to stay, that is through a controlled security system remotely. And there are touch points with City Living Philly coming in and cleaning and making sure that it is to their standards in between each stay and upon request of anyone who has a concern in the neighborhood.
Okay, and if I could ask just one other short question. You mentioned there are neighborhood residents that will often rent this property, but is that typical, or are there corporate renters? What is the typical user of this kind of property? It might be hard to characterize, but if you do the best you can.
Right. Allow me to speak to that, and then I would welcome Tom or Jason following up if they like. But due to the presence of City Living Philly in Philadelphia and the fact that it already has, it's been here at this location, 20th and Spruce is a highly regarded location. And in fact, in a couple other neighborhoods beyond City Living Philly's home in our neighborhood, they have relationships with corporate housing clients, for example. So if somebody is coming in to Penn for a short teaching program or fellowship or something like that, this would be a place that might be recommended to them. And there are repeat stays through these platforms. Also, families welcoming new additions, needing space for out-of-town grandparents to stay, things like that, seem drawn to these types of locations, which, pardon the expression, are off the beaten path for those who just aren't familiar with the richness of a neighborhood like this, and really are drawn to it based on either knowing people in the neighborhood or being close to some of the institutions in the area.
Okay. Thank you, Adam.
Sure.
Thank you. Evan Litvin, any questions?
Yes, one question. Can you clarify how many individual units are there?
Sure. There are 4 individual units: Unit A, Unit B, Unit C, and Unit D. Each of those is it has the look and feel of a townhome with 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. All of them are accessed through the same vehicular entrance and same pedestrian walkway off of Naudain Street.
Does it, thank you, does it consist of the entire condo association running all the way to South Street?
And the deeded parking, of course. It does not, to my knowledge, go through to South Street.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Doug Meller, any questions?
No. Thank you.
Thank you. Andre Geffen, any questions?
Yeah, sorry. When you When was this property built?
Jason or Tom, do you happen to know how long ago the property was built?
I don't, but I can check the zoning archives.
I mean, so you weren't the original owners of the building when it was built?
Correct, we were not.
No, they have owned the first unit that they acquired was a little over 5 years ago.
So what was residential use originally allowed when the building was purchased?
It's unclear to me from the zoning records, Andre.
So it's been CMX5 this whole time, or well, since that designation has existed.
It is CMX2, just
Or sorry, CMX2.
Yeah, 2, not 5. And I would have to consult the City Planning Commission in terms of when that remapping occurred. But I do a lot of work in the area and also live in the neighborhood. I am personally not aware of a recent change to the CMX2.
Essentially, what I'm asking is the reason, if the concern is that the units need to be residential, is the reason you're pursuing a variance instead of a pre-existing use?
Oh, let me be very clear. There is no permit on file for that is valid for single family or multifamily residential at this location.
So was it single or multifamily residential when you purchased it, or did you remodel it to be in that?
They were single family use when we purchased them.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, I believe that I've run through all of the committee members, and so now we'll go to the community, and we'll open to community questions. So community members, I'd ask that you raise your hands using the raise hand feature, which you can find at the bottom of your screen, and then I will call on you in the order that I see your hands raised. So I invite you to raise your hand if you're a community member and you have a question. All right, and so I'll just go in order, and I'll ask if you can just please unmute yourself and introduce yourself with your name and give us your address. So Joanne Philly, please. And I think you'll need to unmute yourself. And unfortunately, that's not something that I can do for you. So we'll just wait one moment, and while you unmute yourself, I invite other community members to raise their hands.
There we go.
All right. So if you can just introduce yourself and state your address for the committee.
Yeah, my name is Joanne Granger, and I own the property at 2114 Naudain, which is one block to the east of the block that you're talking about. And there is a petition that has been circulated asking us for signatures. The gist of the petition is that for the character of the neighborhood, long-term residents, either long-term renters or owners, would be better for the character of the neighborhood. They would have more of a sense of ownership, more of a sense of community involvement and engagement. And that's kind of why they're saying, please sign our petition and oppose this change. I have mixed feelings personally. I'm familiar with these properties. They are physically situated in a way that would make short-term rental use, like what City Living is proposing, pretty non-intrusive into the community because of the off-street parking. And I'm one of the community people here has mentioned that they have made use of, I don't know if probably not this particular property, but a similar property for one of the purposes that was mentioned, which was to house grandparents, I think, after the birth of a child so that they could be nearby. So I'm not opposed to these particular properties being the zoning being modified so that they could have visitor accommodation. What does concern me a little, though, is we know that inventory is tight for long-term rentals and even for properties to purchase, and it's particularly tight in this neighborhood. And I would be concerned if City Living had a business plan that would seek to acquire more residential properties and turn them into short-term rentals to put even more stress on the inventory that's available for people who want to be long-term residents. So I'm not opposed to this particular change, but I am concerned about the long-term effect on our neighborhood and our city. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I'd now invite others, community members who wish to express their point of view, to raise their hand, and we'd love to hear from you. Terry Gillen, and apologies for any mispronunciations. Could you please introduce yourself and give us your address and state your point of view?
Sure. I'm Terry Gillen. I live at 2213 Naudain Street, across the street from the property. And just wanted to say that I and another neighbor are two of the people who have circulated the petition. There are three of us circulating the petition. So far, we've got about 30 names. Unanimous support of our neighbors on the immediate block who are opposed to this use, to this variance request. So let me just be clear why, because there was some lack of clarity about what the property was before. When we all bought our houses, these four properties were single family residential. We had terrific neighbors who lived there. They were people that you could leave your key with. I left my key with the neighbor across the street for many years. They would come out and sweep the sidewalk and sweep the street with us. They joined us in our block parties. Those are the sorts of uses that existed before Mr. Nussbaum and his colleagues started buying up these properties. And he started buying them up in the last couple of years, and over COVID started turning them into the Airbnb use. But it has been a very drastic change from what used to be there, because no longer do you have neighbors who are participating in the life of the city and in the life of the street. I mean, I could go on, but I won't. But that is a significant deterioration in the quality of life on our block, right in the middle of the block, that have four properties, which are frankly not occupied a lot of the time, or occupied certainly by people that we don't know. I could show you a picture. I was out there 2 weeks ago and the guy was urinating there because nobody's there. It is set back. So people go in there and they do not great things. And that's one thing that happens when people aren't living in a property. They become not eyes on the streets, which is what we would like. So I'm going to stop now. Happy to go on, but I'd like, if my neighbors want to speak up or people want to ask questions, but there is overwhelming opposition to this zoning change in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Duly noted. Are there other neighbors who wish to speak? Please feel free to raise your hand. So the name is K.D. Mowski, but I'm not sure, and I don't see your video, but if you could please unmute and introduce yourself with your name and address.
Yes, hi, my name is Camille Domowski. I'm at 2300 Naudain block. I just have a question. If this change were to be approved, does that mean that, for example, in 2 years, the owner could raise the properties and build a hotel there? What are the implications of the allowing of the visitor, of basically of allowing the property to accept visitors?
I'm happy to respond to that if that's okay with the committee. An expansion of a use that is not permitted would require further zoning board of adjustment relief. So it could not happen under the zoning code without a similar type of review such as this, not to mention other potential dimensional issues such as height and bulk and things like that. But on use alone, to answer your question directly, that could not occur without zoning board review.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you both. Are there other members of the community who wish to speak? I invite you to unmute yourself. Jim Branch, please.
Yes, Jim Branch. I live at 2208 Naudain. It was mentioned during the description that the property does not go through to South Street. However, there is a gate, as I understand, at South Street. Would this be utilized for access to the properties, or would access be changed at the South Street point?
Jason, would you like to, or Tom, would you like to speak to that for a moment?
Sure. We do own the adjacent parcel at 2217 to 19 South Street. That is not part of this application, and we do not utilize the South Street gate. We have different locks that only our maintenance department uses that access for. We have all of the guests utilize the Naudain entrance, as most of them are coming by car anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have other members of the community who wish to unmute themselves and speak? I invite you to raise your hand, or I invite you also to just unmute yourself and ask your question.
If this doesn't get approved, how would the properties be used?
That's a very good question. I had tried to speak to that a little bit in terms of what does the zoning code allow at this location, and City Living Philly is not interested in these particular uses, but in terms of what is not allowed is household living exclusively. What is allowed is a child care center, a religious assembly, sales of pets and pet supplies.
Adam, I would suggest that that's beyond the scope of what you could tell him or we could tell him. Yep, thanks.
Bob, happy to defer to you as always.
Thank you. Any other community questions? I see several community members who haven't spoken, so I want to give you a chance before we wrap up this property. All right, well, hearing no other voices, I want to thank you all for attending and for being here, and Mr. Laver and everyone else who represents this property. Thank you so much for being present, and also for providing such a clear and comprehensive overview. Mr. Laver, you had wanted to speak as well?
Yes, if I may, just very briefly, I'd like to, getting back to Terry Gillen's comments, I'd like to make an open statement to the community that Jason and Tom and I are not aware of a petition. We don't know what has been shared with people. All three of us are open and interested in speaking with any member of the community present tonight or not able to attend, to hear your questions, your comments, and engage in dialogue with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Laver, and also thank you to Mr. Nussbaum and Mr. Hallinan. So this concludes the public portion of this committee meeting, and so I invite all of you to go ahead and step off of this call, and at this point, the committee will move into closed session. So thank you. Thank you for attending. All right, so if you're not a member of the committee, I invite you to go ahead and leave this, leave the meeting, and there we go. So I will stop the recording now.